Welcome back to Budget Day Live. Our entire effort through the next 3 hours is to get you the most seasoned and experienced voices from the government, from the cabinet, from the policy-making world, and of course from the opposition. And it's delighted to have with us in the studio now Union Minister for Telecom and Information Technology, Mr. Kapil Sibal. Thank you very much. Who is also a very key member of all the political decisions taken by the government. Mr. Sibal, that's why my question to you really, Navika is better than me at economics. But as a political journalist, what fascinates me is that there is zero populism in this budget. There was zero populism in the railway budget. Is this a sort of a well thought out decision? Because the expectation had been that this budget would be purely aimed at somewhere buying over the vote.
Well, assuming we had gone for a populist railway budget and a populist budget through Chidambaram, how then do we justify whoever comes to power next time and the people of India that, look, we gave a populist budget, we sold you a dream which obviously could not be realized. I think finance ministers and railway ministers owe a responsibility, not just for election purposes, but to the people of this country, that we must state the facts, we must tell them what the reality is, we must have our head firm on our shoulders, our feet on the ground, and tell the people of India the truth. And then, on the basis of that, if we have to tighten our belts, we say, let's all tighten our belts.
Is it possible just that this is happening because the belts are already quite tight? There isn't much leg room, really, given the...
If you want to be profligate, you can do it. You can sell a dream, and you can say, let the next finance minister deal with it.
But you did that in 2008 when you gave the farm loan waiver. You did announce those SOPs. You were going into an election in 2009. Why has there been a course correction in UPA 2?
Well, at that point in time, as you know, that the economy was doing exceptionally well. I mean, the downturn came after that. And we had to give the stimulus package after that. So when the economy is doing well, when you have 2 years of 9% growth, you can do all those things. But when you are in a downturn, when your demand abroad is reducing, your exports are coming down, your tax GDP ratio is now 9% instead of the 11% it ought to be, right? Where are you going to get the money from? So you have to be practical. You have to tell. So I think 2008 was different. 2013, it's like auctioning of the spectrum. What happened in 2010 will not happen in 2013.
Can I take off from that and ask you? Bang on, actually, Mr. Chidambaram. Mr. Chidambaram made a point about a disinvestment target of 55,000 crore. Now, the spectrum sale has not been successful. Is that a very tall commitment to make, that I'm going to raise 55,000 crores, when given the recent experience?
Well, I think that these 55,000 crores have to be divided into two figures: 40,000 crores from this investment, and 15,000 crores from Government of India holding certain shares in companies, non-government companies, and they can be sort of divested. So I think 40,000 crores is certainly a doable target. But let me tell you about spectrum. We have said that we'll get you 40,000 crores. Of the 40,000 crores, about 20,000 crores is just license fee and profit sharing. Only 21,000 crores is through auction. I think 21,000 crores is doable. So I think, at least from my point of view, from spectrum sale, this is clearly doable.
The other point, I mean, please don't think we are carping about the details, but I want to get these issues straight for a wider audience. I'll lay this question and request Navika to actually go into detail. The question here is, Mr. Sibal, that has the finance minister made all these right noises on flagship schemes, but there is a constituency which believes, and Navika can elaborate more, that there are no actual allocations on those in the budget. Navika, would you like to just elaborate on that? Where is the cynicism
Mr. Sibal, there was a provision of 75,000 crore for food subsidy. It's gone up to 85,000 crore in the revised estimates, but the provision for next year is only 90,000 crore. So that's only 5,000 crore extra only on the food subsidy bill. But Mr. Chidambaram made an announcement that would be a provision of 10,000 crore extra for the food security security bill.
So
Where is the provisioning?
A shortfall
of 5. But
shortfall
you are now
of 5.
assuming...
No, shortfall of 5, assuming that the food subsidy bill would remain at the same level last year.
Yes.
And the fact that there needs to be another provision of 10,000.
You have supplementary demands, as you know. And so there are going to be revenues that are going to come in. We are expecting the economy next year to grow at between 6.1% to 6.7%. So I don't think that you can limit yourself merely to the budget estimates today when we know that the economy is going to grow. I think personally, the kind of foundations he has laid for expanding the economy and incentivizing investment from abroad, and now with the foreign trade policy being announced next month, we're going to give a huge boost to exports. On the manufacturing side, there are huge boosts given to us through the electronics.
But you do agree that the provision is not there in the budget, and supplementary grants for demands is where you will get it. And then where does that leave the credit rating agencies, which will be looking at the fiscal deficit number?
Please understand that when he says that at the moment the food security bill is not passed, we don't know what is the extent.
But the announcement is there. The question is about allocation versus announcement.
The idea is to say that we will give you 10,000 crores for food security if it is needed.
So from one pocket to another?
There's no question of one pocket. You say there's only a deficit of 5. 5 is there already. And the balance 5 will come because he has promised. Because remember, many a time allocations are made, and this is something I hear on television channels all the time. Last year the allocation was X, but nothing was given. Remember, when allocations are made, then schemes have to be put into practice. Then approvals have to be taken. Then it has to be implemented on the ground. By the time the implementation takes place, there is not enough time to spend the money, and so therefore there's a shortfall. And then the criticism is, look, this was just something artificial.
This is actually, Mr. Sibal, can I explain this to you on a more light-hearted note? This is our opportunity to go into these details before we start the political debate later in the evening. It's by way of clarification, not accusation. The question really is, do the numbers really add up? Can I just pick up one more? I take your explanations for what you said about the 5,000 crores. The bigger number is on the budgeted fuel subsidy for 2012-2013, which is for 2012-13 was 43,000 some crores, and the revised estimate was 96,879 crores. For the next fiscal, the government is allocated somewhere in between, closer to the budgeted estimate of about 65,000 crores. Mr. Sibal, given the global trends, does this not appear woefully inadequate and unrealistic, given the fact that diesel prices are being rationally hiked on the one side, crude oil prices are on the rise? How will this be made up?
You must understand that ultimately governments will have to take decisions to ensure that the subsidy bill is reduced. Right? When a finance minister presents a budget, he knows that ultimately we cannot sustain the subsidy. The subsidy bill today is 2,31,000 crores. How can any country afford this kind of a subsidy bill? So we're trying to rationalize the whole situation, whether it's diesel or it's petroleum prices. At some stage, we'll have to make sure that the consumer has to pay what the market price is. But at the same time, we have to provide enough.
Have you provided enough?
Yes, we have provided enough for the subsidy bill, and in case there is we'll see what happens.
Now, so are you assuming that, to put it more simply, that prices will generally go up quite a bit in the next fiscal, fuel prices for the?
Well, we don't know. The international price is at the moment around 118.
Yes.
Right. We don't know. It may come down. It may go up. We don't know. But this is an imponderable. This is something that we are importing. But 75 to 80% we are importing.
Mr. Sibal, there are two very important parts of the budget which rely a huge amount on the decision-taking capability of the government. One is the issue of all the pending projects which run into lakhs of crores, which are before the Cabinet Committee on Investment, which the Finance Minister did refer to. The second part is, of course, the pricing policy for oil and natural gas, which he's spoken about, where you move from a profit-sharing model to a revenue-sharing model. Yes. Both of these are reform steps, but it really puts a huge amount of pressure on the government and its speed of taking decisions, which hasn't really given too much confidence to people, because the decision-making process in the UPA too has been rather slow. Do you think there's going to be a major shift in that process of decision-making?
I don't know why you say the decision. I mean, see, if I look back at my decisions, I can say I could have done them better. But if you have a general average growth rate of 8%, during the 11th plan, as opposed to 5.6% in the 10th plan, obviously the UPA has done better. I mean, the UPA has done well, 8% growth rate from any standard.
That's a long average.
It's a great...
It's over a long period.
I mean, so we've not mismanaged the economy despite the fact that there's been a global turndown.
But people look at 2 years in a run-up to an election.
Every news channel expects the ideal to happen in government, but the ideal doesn't happen, either on news channels or in government.
No, but aren't we closer today to the global growth rates than we were in, say, 2000,
no, we're not.
2004?
We're still 5%.
But you still didn't answer the question on the pace of decision-making.
No, I was answering the question. What I'm saying, obviously, they've taken the right decisions over the previous years. Now, I'll give you an example. We have launched what is called an electronics manufacturing policy. See, by 2020, if we continue business as usual, we'll be importing $400 billion worth of consumer electronics, of which we'll only produce $100 billion worth in India. 300 billion will be imported, which will be more than the price we pay for crude oil imports today. No country can afford it. We have taken very strong steps in setting up a whole electronics manufacturing policy, through which we are giving huge incentives to industry to come into the country. I just was in California and then went to Japan. Every company I met is desperate to come to India. I'll give you a small example. Hitachi, they called me to their headquarters, and the first time Hitachi board ever held a meeting of its board outside of Japan was in India in December 2012. Just a few months ago. And why? Because we have announced an electronics manufacturing policy. You will not hear it in the budget. The reform process is a process that is a continuous process dealing with what the needs of the country are. Yes, people talk about insurance all the time and people talk about other reform measures, but there's lots happening on the ground which is extremely reformist, which people don't know about, and I'll give you just one example.
But then why are the FDI inflows not picking up at the rate you would want them to?
Well, okay, FDI inflows have not picked up in 3 sectors of this economy, right? One is power, and the other is telecommunications, right? And the third is, I think, coal, all right? Now, why has that happened? If you look back, it all started in 2010. It all started in 2010.
So what are you linking it to?
I am linking it to the fact that in the telecommunications sector, if you tell the world that the telecommunications sector is not a good place to invest in, investors will not come. We told the world that, look, this is a sector in which we're going to punish everybody. But the result is there will be no investment. And this is not government's doing. And this is what is happening in the country. The world wants to invest in India. We don't want the world to invest in India because we're all saying that we're all scamsters. And in April, December, the investment of FDI in telecom sector is down 96%. Not because of us.
What about environmental clearances? Is that also responsible for this? Are there internal issues that are happening within the government?
We've set up a committee. I'm a member of that committee. We'll take very firm decisions and quick decisions. And we are committed to reform.
Now, is the level of bureaucracy within the UPA gone up in the last couple of years?
I don't think so. I think the level of bureaucracy if there is any element of consistency in any government for the last 25 years, it is the consistency of the bureaucracy in opposing things.
Can I go into a couple of more details, please? One is that I found one or two areas where I have I wonder, I hope this is not cosmetic, Mr. Sibal. The UPA has less than a year for any of its programs to take concrete shape in this government. Roadmap is not clearly defined. While having a Nirbhaya fund of a government contribution of 1,000 crores laudable, given what has happened, it was also very clearly mentioned that I don't know the exact terminology that the finance minister used, but the modalities of
the Home Ministry, the other stakeholders, those discussions will take place.
Your critics might say that this is therefore more a cosmetic exercise aimed at enhancing the government's image.
On the contrary, if you really look at what the finance minister does, take for example the capital markets. the kind of messages he's sending to the capital markets in this speech itself is huge.
But why have the markets tanked then?
No, the markets will tank and not tank is not the issue. The question is, what has the finance minister done? He is now rationalizing the definition of FDI and bringing it in terms with OECD definitions. He's setting up an infrastructure development fund, right? 2 development funds have already been set up. And he's rationalizing SEBI regulations. Look at what he's doing in the SME
You didn't
sector.
answer my question on the Nirbhaya fund. I mean, the modality is not being set up.
When you set up, when a budget speech is given, you don't set up the modalities because then
the word go.
Then the word, everybody will know that this is what's going to happen in the budget. So this will only happen after the announcement is made. I didn't want to answer it because the answer was quite evident.
The other point where I find that there has been a departure from the stated position of Mr. Chidambaram is he repeatedly said on 3 occasions that I will give money as per the utilization of each of these ministries, and he says I therefore now encourage the ministries to come up to speed on that. I find a departure in the case of the Ministry of Minority Affairs. Unique example. The finance minister announces 3,511 crores to the Ministry of Minority Affairs, but recently the standing committee came down heavily on this ministry for not utilizing funds, large amounts, almost 1,000 crores. So the question is, despite having a proven track record of unutilized funds for 3 consecutive financial years, why did the finance minister dramatically increase the allocation of this
Because I
ministry?
think as far as minorities are concerned, we need to reach funds to the minority community. And we are encouraging all ministers, and that's what the finance minister said. All ministers, all ministries must start spending from April itself, because by the time the expenditure starts, it's October or November. And processes in government are such that we can't get all the approvals.
But he said, I provide funds consistent with their capacity to spend the funds.
That's right,
which is
because
not
many a time,
displayed
in many ministries, what happens is that by the time a scheme, take for example, setting up universities. There was 85,000 crores in the higher education ministry given to us, but we couldn't spend it because by the time you set up a university, you have to build a boundary wall, then the vice chancellor makes a plan, then the architect, then that plan is cleared, and by that time 2.5 years pass, and your money cannot be spent.
What's so follow-up question, but I want to make the most of the time I have with you. What's the guarantee that this tax on the super rich, this surcharge, is going to be only for 1 year? Most people we spoke to today, Mr. Sibal, said that we are really apprehensive. This never happens.
What is super rich? I mean,
this surcharge on the
it's a sad commentary on the tax base of this country that if 42,000 people in this
Precisely,
country
but that's the point.
Pay or declare a taxable income of 1 crore, it's a sad commentary.
That's true.
Several of them may be in Parliament.
But then do you put more pressure on those who...
This is Navika, this is just because you're in television and you say this is, most of them are in politics. This is not fair. This only shows a mindset.
The point is it a political slogan?
What about all those people, millions of people who you know, and if you go to marriages you will know, who spend so much money and don't surprise. You talk about politicians, we're just 500
agreed. No,
I hope it was in a lighter way.
The question is not about politicians. The question is more...
You should have a serious discussion.
The question is more at a very basic level, that the basic idea should be to increase the tax base. They've not been able to increase the tax base. My question is there therefore more, I would say, symbolism, political message in taxing this category?
What is the symbolism?
That you go around and you say that we are with the people and we are...
Arnav,
therefore,
it's a 10% surcharge.
How much do you gain out of it?
That's the point. So
very little.
So no, you still gain.
13,000 crores.
13,000. It is not a small amount. Yeah. You can finance a scheme in 13,000 crores. So you gain, but it's not a tax increase. It's a surcharge of 3%. Yeah. So 10%. In other words, anybody who's paying 30% will pay just a few.
33.9.
Yeah, 0.9. That's about it. So that's a very small amount. But the sad story is that 42,000 people in this country just declared a return of 1 crore. And therefore, the finance minister in previous years also has to widen. So we have a negative list on the service tax, because there's no other way to actually collect revenues. So unless the economy, unless we have a proper banking system in place, unless we have a direct benefit transfer scheme in place, where actually money goes into accounts, unless we reach financial inclusion where people in the villages are able to actually deposit their money in banks, you're not going to be able to ride on the tax base. So I think this government is actually setting the pace for that to, in the future, create a base through which your transactions will not be cash transactions, but be reflected.
Do you think you've disappointed a few in your own party today? Who would have expected to go back with some claims that could, I mean, let's not use the word populist, which would go down well among voters?
Well, it's better to disappoint a few in the party, and I don't know how many are, and I'm not sure if there are any, than to disappoint the nation.
Right. Mr. Sibal, it's a pleasure talking to you. Thank you. Good to see you face to face today.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming on Budget Day Live.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sibal.